Hey guys, what's going on? Sincere here with whoissincere.com and the All Rights Matter show. Listen, I hate to do videos like this, but this video needs to be done. As everyone that's on Twitter, Facebook, as you all know, within the last few days, there was a young man, well, not actually that young of a man, but a pretty decently young man that was gunned down by the Charlotte Police Department. So what happened was his wife released some footage, and a day later the police department decided to go ahead and release their footage. With them releasing their footage, they just put their foot in their mouth. I'm going to show you through this video. I have all three videos here for you. I'm going to directly show you that Keith Scott was murdered. And I want you to stick with me closely on this. We're going to go frame by frame. I have a pretty good editor up here, VLC Media Player. So a pretty good player up here, VLC Media Player. So I'd recommend you get this as well. So when you get videos like this, you can go frame by frame and actually look at what's going on. So let's start. This is the dash cam footage. Let's go ahead and play that. You see they just pull up on the location. Now pay attention to this guy in red right here. This guy right here. This is your shooter, the guy in red. Pay attention. Keith Scott is in the truck. He's going to get out. Now, keep in mind, Keith Scott has a traumatic brain injury, a TBI, traumatic brain injury. So this could cause him to be very confused easily, all kinds of effects from having a TBI. Let's look at his demeanor. All right, he gets out, he's walking backwards, and he's shot. I'm going to let the rest of this play out, just so we can get the full context of everything. We're going to go to the body cam footage next after this. The audio on this isn't that great because, again, this is dash cam footage. This was inside the actual police cruiser that just pulled up. Right, you see the guy in the red shirt just kind of hovering over him.
One suspect down, Legacy Court. Search W, search W, 10-4. All officers at 10-4, we got one suspect down.
Obviously, the guy in the red shirt has nothing in his hands.
Legacy Court.
He just handed out some gloves to somebody. He's wiping his hands off now with I'm guessing a rag or something like that. Okay. So that was that one. Now we're going to go back. Now we're going to do the body cam footage. Let's do that. Here's the body cam footage. So let me pause it here so you know what's going on. These officers are at the back of Keith Scott's truck. They're banging on the window with a baton. They're yelling at him to get out. They've surrounded his vehicle. They're pounding on it. They're banging on it. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is a guy with a TBI, with a traumatic brain injury. This is a guy who can become very easily confused. Now, witnesses, all kinds of witnesses have reported that he was waiting for a child to get off of the bus. And, he does this all the time. The locals there, they know him. They know he doesn't bother anybody. He was just simply waiting for someone to get off the bus. And he normally sits in his vehicle and he reads while he's doing that. So there was reported that he was reading a book at the time that he was killed. Now, we don't know because he actually wasn't shot in the car, so we don't know what the contents of the actual vehicle are at this point in time, okay? But what we do know is that the police department has lied. First of all, I've already pointed out the guy in the red shirt is the one that actually shot Mr. Keith Scott. But let's keep going on so you can see the context of what happens next. I'm going to let this play all the way through, then we'll go back over it.
Handcuff. Legacy caught his hand. Gripping his hand. Legacy caught his hand. Gripping his hand.
You can actually hear Keith Scott is still alive at this point in time. You can hear him moaning still.
Somebody get my somebody get my bag and start getting it. Take back my truck. I'm good. Get some gloves. We need to hold the wound. Good. Get some gloves. We need to hold the wound.
Okay. Now we'll go over Keith Scott's wife's video real fast here. But we're going to really be using the dash cam video the most, and the actual body cam footage the most. But we'll go over Keith Scott's wife's video.
Don't shoot him. He has no weapon. He has no weapon. Don't shoot him.
Don't shoot him. Don't shoot him.
Don't
He didn't do anything.
Don't shoot him. He didn't do anything.
He doesn't have a gun. He has a TBI. He's not going to do it.
He has
Okay.
a TBI. He's not
Let's be
gonna
clear
do it.
about this. All right. Out of all the drop the guns that you hear, Keith Scott is not present. Keith Scott is actually in his vehicle. There's no one at the driver's side to verify that he has a gun, but you hear several officers saying, drop the gun. There's no way that these several officers who can't even see his hands and what he's doing in his vehicle would see that he has any kind of weapon, whether it's a gun, a knife, or anything like that. So he's literally in his vehicle, and you hear several people yelling, drop the gun. Now, I don't know if you know this, this is what police officers do to make their case. They say, drop the gun or stop resisting arrest, all while they get to take free reign of doing whatever they want to do, and then once it comes out on camera, it's justified that they said either drop the gun or stop resisting arrest. So let's continue.
Anything to you guys. He just took his medicine.
Anything to you guys. He just took his medicine.
Keith, don't let them break the windows.
Keith, don't let
So
them break the windows.
she's saying don't let them break the windows. Pretty much, go ahead and get out of the car. Don't let them break the windows, because she just heard the guy say, let me get a baton over here. Okay? So let's keep going.
Come on out the car.
Come on out the car.
Keith, don't do it.
Keith,
Now,
do it.
there's no way that Keith hears her. He's still in the vehicle. So she's not telling Keith, don't do it. Okay? Keith and don't do it are two separate sentences. She's speaking to, her husband and letting him know, get out the car, but she's already told them, don't you fucking shoot him. So she's saying it very clearly, don't do it. Don't do it. She says it over and over again, and she's speaking to the police officers as far as don't do it. She's already said that Keith is not a threat. He has a traumatic brain injury. He's not going to do anything to anybody.
Keith, get out the car. Keith, don't you do it. Don't you do it.
Keith, don't you
All
do
right.
it.
She sees them already in position. They all have their guns drawn, and she's telling them, don't you do it. Don't you do it. Like, you better not do it. It's like when you're telling a child that's getting ready to touch something, don't do it. Okay, she sees them already in position. She's already stated, don't you kill him. You better not shoot him. All right, let's keep going.
Keith, don't you do it.
Don't you do it.
Did you shoot him? 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 He better not be fucking dead. He better not be fucking dead. I know that fucking much. I know that much. You better not be mad. I'm not gonna come near you. I'll go record you. I'm not coming near you. I'll go record you.
Okay, you hear her. She's hysterical. Okay? She's obviously hysterical. Now, at this point in time, there's nothing. I'm just going to keep it real with you. Look at the scene. There's no guns. There's nothing there at this point in time. But this video is going to play on, so let's go ahead and watch the rest of it.
Better be alive, because I'm coming. You better be alive after that. Yes, we're over here at 90 over here, 3 Lexington Court. These are the police officers that shot my husband, and he better live. He better live. Because he didn't do nothing to them.
He better live. Because he didn't do nothing to
He
them.
good. Ain't nobody touch nobody, so they all good.
Ain't nobody touch nobody, so they all good.
I know he better live. I know he better live. How about that? I'm not coming to you guys, but he better live.
How about that? I'm not coming to you guys, but he better
He
live.
better live. Y'all hear this and you see this, right? He better live.
Y'all hear this and you see this, right? He better live.
He better live. I swear he better live.
He better live. I swear he better
He
live.
better live.
Yep.
He better fucking live.
He
Now
better
you'll
fucking
notice
live.
after that cop in the red moved and after that cop in the black moved, now there happens to be a few things on the ground. Okay? We'll get to this. We're gonna go over it.
Yes, we're here over here at 90 over here. 3
No gun.
These are the police officers that shot my
Anywhere on
husband.
location, no gun.
He
better live.
And he better
Because
live.
he didn't do nothing to them.
He better live. Because he didn't do nothing to
He good.
them.
Ain't nobody touch nobody, so they all good.
Ain't nobody touch nobody, so they all good.
I know he better live. I know he better live. How about that? I'm not coming to you guys, but he better live.
How about that? I'm not coming to you guys, but he better
He
live.
better live. Y'all hear this and you see this, right? He better
Y'all hear
live.
this and you see this, right? He better
Now you see
live.
this cop standing there in the red shirt
He better
as if
live.
he's
I
standing with
swear he better
evidence.
live. Yep.
He better live.
He better
Okay.
live.
Now, it's not over yet. We're actually going to go over these and whether the cop, the argument is, well, the cop didn't toss a gun. The black cop didn't toss a gun at all. What the black cop actually did was he dropped his gloves. Okay? But we're going to look at it from a different angle. And no one has done this yet, so thank you for sticking with me this long. We're going to go ahead and review this, and you tell me what you think. All right. Now this is the body cam footage. I'm going to show you something from the body cam footage that I thought to be very interesting. All right. Now let's take this to about 20 seconds. First of all, this is when we get our first good view of Keith. He does not appear to have anything in his hands. Okay? Now, does he have something on his ankle? It appears he either has his pant leg pulled up or there's something on his ankle. So we don't know. Now when you look at it from that angle, it just looks like he has his regular leg with his pant leg pulled up a little bit. Okay? We don't see anything there. Nothing at all. Keith isn't a threat to anybody. He's not pointing anything at anybody. But he's clearly looking around like, what the hell is going on? Alright? So, that's not the only point that we get a chance to see him. We get a very frontal view of Keith right about... Oop, we passed it. That's how... There it is. No hands raised. We can see that nothing is in that hand. Nothing's going on. He just looks like he's backing away from his vehicle. Now we can obviously see that, why wouldn't the guy with the traumatic brain injury be a little bit confused as to why this car came smashing into his car? Have you heard anybody talk about this yet? No one has even talked about this yet. This car has obviously rammed his vehicle. Okay? So that would leave him dazed as far as what the heck is going on. Alright? Look at it. You can see it yourself. You can see Keith is actually looking over in this direction towards us. All right? He has nothing on him. He's not raising. He's not a threat to anyone. Anyone, not even himself. He's not a threat to anyone. Let's keep going. As this officer comes around this SUV that's sitting in the parking lot, that's when Mr. Red Shirt over here, there you go. Mr. Red Shirt had just fired his shots at Keith Jones, who's right about here at this time. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, this is important. This is tremendously important. All these photos came out of a gun sitting a few inches away from the white pavement, maybe about a foot and a half away from the white part of the pavement, which is, right about there. Now, let's look. There's nothing there. This area is free and clear. There's nothing there. Let's keep going. All we see is shadows on the ground. There's nothing on the pavement, guys. Nothing is on the pavement. Okay? Now, if we look at Keith's body, okay? Let's look at Mr. Keith Scott's body. If we're looking at his body, when they run up to him, here we go. When they run up to him, his hands are under his body. Both of his hands are under his body. Okay? And I'll show you in another video, how that actually came about. So it's very clear that nothing was in his hands. When he actually got shot, he clutched both of his hands, his right hand first, and then his left hand into his body. So his right hand was clutching his body, and his left hand immediately overlapped that as he was falling backwards when he got shot. Okay? So, that's significant, and I want you to see why. Let's keep going. Okay, let's also point this out. Is this his leg? Is it a gun holster? Is it the gun? That could be a question that could be asked right there, okay? Now, with that being said, if that is the gun, it clearly proves that it wasn't in his hands. If that is the gun holster with no gun in it, I'm going to show you another reason why it wasn't in his hands, as he's laying down on his hands on the ground right now, okay? But stick with me. Let's keep going. And either way, let's not forget, there was no hands raised at cops at any time. He looked confused and dazed, and he was backing up. All right. Now we see the red officer approaches first. His weapon is still drawn. He's trying to get his hands from out under him, his arm from out under him. I'm going to play it a little bit so you can hear it. They're calling for handcuffs. Okay? They're trying to get his hands from under him so they can handcuff him. Alright? So let's keep going. We see that this officer immediately stands up. He immediately stands up. He doesn't go back to the body. He stands up, and he's out of the frame. He's gone. Okay? Now, we see that this officer is putting the handcuffs on him. They pulled his arm from up under his body, and they're putting the handcuffs on him. Now, he was shot about 3 or 4 times in the front, so I want you to see something. If we go a little bit further in this video, just a little bit more, you're going to see something that is quite odd. Well, it's not odd, it's expected, but it's not being talked about. There's one hand. They had already said that his hands were stiffening up. Let me see if I can, where he was clenching up. Let's see if I can get that in there. I think he said he's sticking it out right there. Right there. Right here we see Keith has blood on his hands. Not a little bit. He has a decent amount of blood on his hands. Okay? Now that's because he just got shot in the front a few times and he grabbed for those areas where he got shot at. So he was bleeding out as he was laying down. Let's keep going. Excuse me. Alright, right about here is where the one cop starts worrying about the blood that's getting on his hands now. So there was a transfer of blood happening. Alright, we can see that he has blood on his arm right there. We should be seeing the cop's hand come into focus here soon. Alright, there's a good view. We can see that they shot this man 3-4 times. He's not moving. All he's doing is just moaning. He is in pain. He is literally dying at this time frame. He has blood on his hands. He's dying. He's not moving. And they decide to handcuff him. Okay? You can see he's a rather large fellow too. He's not a small guy by any means. But at the same time, I mean, this is this is uncalled for. He's obviously not armed. There's no gun anywhere around him. No one has picked up a gun from anywhere around him. So that's why I said this whole gun holster or that they have, and the gun is just kind of weird and wild because you never see anybody take a gun off of his body. Okay? No one ever comes over and takes a gun off of his body. That's one of the first things you want to do, is to clear the scene. You want to make sure that that gun is taken off of the body, and that didn't happen. Okay? Let's keep going. And you can obviously see that the white guy has blood on his hands too now. You see him looking at it. Alright, so he has Keith Scott's blood on his hands. He's asking for his kit so he can get himself cleaned up and to try to apply pressure to the wounds of Keith. Alright, so that's how that video ends right there. Now, let's go to the next video. We're going to go over this frame by frame. I want to show you something here too. I think it's very important to note, again, there was nothing on the pavement. Nothing on the pavement. As a matter of fact, I just want to go back to it and reiterate it one more time for you, just so you can see it with your own eyes. Just so we can be clear. Okay? Let's be clear about everything we see here. Nothing on the pavement, guys. Look how far out he was, his body is, from the pavement. Nothing on the pavement. Alright? Let's keep going. I think we can even get a clearer view. There you go. Nothing on the pavement, guys. Nothing. You can clearly see it. You're looking at the same thing as me. Nothing there, still. It's not hidden magic guns or anything like that. This is the only thing that's in question, and that's on his ankle. If it's a gun holster with a gun in it, maybe, who knows. But either way, if it's a gun holster on his ankle with a gun in it, no problem. No problem whatsoever. Maybe he can have it, maybe he can't. I don't know his felony record. But at the end of the day, even if he did have a gun on him and it was holstered, this is still a murder. This is nothing short of a manslaughter. Okay? Let's be very clear about that. So I wanted to show you there's nothing on this pavement, guys. Nothing. Alright? Now, if the victim is down, especially if he's dying and he's pretty much almost dead at this point, the proper thing to do is to let the crime scene people come in and to do their job next. That obviously didn't happen without the crime scene being tampered with. And we can see that in another video. I'll show you that at another time. So let's get a good view of it from the dash cam angle, and I'll break it down frame by frame here, just so you can see this, guys. I want you to be able to see this and see exactly what's going on. I'm walking and talking you through it, taking my time, because I want you to see the same things that I'm saying. It's not that hard. Alright, this isn't a long video, so they're waiting for him to get out the truck. He starts exit the truck right here. Now, he gets out, he's kind of like looking around like, what the hell is going on? That's the first thing he does when he gets out the truck. He's looking out at all these people that are around him. Look, he backs out of his truck, he's looking around, he kind of has his hands like, what? What's going on? And he starts backing up. Now we see where the bullets actually came from. We can see the angle. We can see when he first got shot. So let's be clear. As he's backing up, if he has anything in his hands at all. When the first shot goes out, there you go. Now you see him gripping with his right arm. He obviously got shot on that side, so he immediately, look, the right arm goes up. He's gripping. He's falling to the ground. Okay? So they had already shot him. Now let's be clear about this. We see how far away he fell and when he fell. Did you see his foot there at the end? Okay? So he fell, I'm sorry, and rolling towards his right, I'm up right here. Rolling towards his right, and he went down. Okay? And that's because the shots were fired from this angle, this standpoint right here. Alright? And if we keep going here, we see that Mr. Red Dude runs up to the scene for the handcuffs, trying to get some handcuffs on, stands right back up. Okay? Nothing in hand. I believe he hands to somebody that asks for some gloves. I didn't know cops carried so many gloves on them, but okay. It's funny to slip to you. Now, if we look at his heated gloves, he already had on gloves. Look at his hands. Okay? He already has on gloves. So let's keep it moving. Okay, so let's go ahead and catch the rest of this real quick. Alright, he bends down one more time. He bends down, he picks up some. Yeah, excuse me, my computer's acting up a little bit now. We'll just play it right here for a few seconds. See, he's wiping his hands off. Putting on some gloves. Alright. Now, case you haven't noticed yet, guys, the funny thing is, we have not seen in any of the videos, in any of them, where there was a gun that was laying next to the curb. The only time we see the gun laying next to the curb is
He has no weapon.
Is when the man that shot him in the red shirt,
He has no weapon.
the man that literally shot him in the red shirt, the only time we see the gun is possibly near his boot. If it's not the objects that the black guy threw out, then the gun is possibly near this guy in the red shirt's boot. Other than that, we do not see him ever pick up a gun off of Keith Scott. We never see any of this happen. So, and this is very clear to see with the video that they've already released, that that's not the case. I've showed you the red guy's hands the whole time. He never picked up a gun off of Keith Scott. Not one single time did he pick up a weapon off of Keith Scott. Okay? So for the weapon to be found where he was standing at, and then you also have to consider this too, Keith Scott died on his hands, bleeding into his own hands. That means that gun would have been under him, and he would have been bleeding on that gun had he have been brandishing a weapon. But that's not the case. That's not the case at all. We don't see any kind of bloody weapon. We don't see any kind of DNA that was found, blood that was found on the gun. None of that. Okay, so this is clearly a case where a person with a traumatic brain injury gets out of a vehicle after they've rammed his vehicle. They're now pounding on his vehicle. He gets out of the vehicle confused, maybe probably scared too, backing up, wondering why all these people are pointing guns at him all of a sudden when he was only sitting there chilling, minding his own business. He wasn't bothering anybody. It's broad daylight. He's not out to get anybody by sitting in his truck. I don't care if he was smoking a blunt or not. That has no bearing. That makes, that the cops have said that they found, maybe a third of a piece of a blunt on him. Okay, maybe that's the truth. But somebody with a traumatic brain injury, shit, let him smoke his half a blunt. Let him smoke his blunt and mind his own business. He's not hurting anybody. He's not hurting anybody at all. There's plenty of white people in Colorado that are smoking blunts right now. California, Washington State. Okay, all over the United States, people are smoking blunts. So this is not a big deal if he is sitting in his truck smoking, waiting for somebody to get off the bus. Or if he had just finished smoking and he's waiting for somebody to get off the bus. Or if he had smoked earlier in the day and maybe had a piece of a blunt in his pocket and he's just sitting there peacefully minding his own business. So this is a guy, again, with a traumatic brain injury. He's getting out of the vehicle. Okay, he eventually gets out of the vehicle and he's looking dazed and confused and just looking around like, what's going on? He's not making any threatening gestures. He's not even really saying anything. He's just kind of backing up, like trying to take it all in, if you will. All right? Now, if you'll notice in this video, towards the end, I wanted to get back to this part here. Towards the end here, and again, I've showed you guys this already. There was nothing on the, nothing on the ground or anything like that. So if we go back and we look at this video here towards the end, okay, you got to do this frame by frame. Now you got to ask yourself, what's going on right here? What are we looking at right here? We can clearly see there's nothing by his foot. We can clearly see there was nothing on the ground here. Okay? But now we have two people who are in this area, and you have to say, what are they doing now that they've backed up from him? Because there was no weapon here. We've already went through that piece of footage. I'll go over it again. But we can clearly see there's no weapon there. All right? We already know he didn't pick a weapon up off of the body. So now he's standing back up straight and looking down. Now, I don't know what's going on in this frame, but something doesn't seem right now. Now it gets weirder. This is when the black cop is reaching in his pockets now, okay? And we really don't know what he's reaching for in his pockets. Some people say it's gloves, some people say it's not. But by the time he gets done reaching in his pocket and throwing something on the ground, look at that, guys. He just tossed that on the ground. That's what you're watching right there coming into view right now as we speak. It just got tossed on the ground. Okay? People are saying that something dropped out of his pocket. If something did drop out of his pocket, it might be the glove right there. But that doesn't negate the fact that he tossed something as well. So what are we talking about here? This is the problem. That there was no gun found on Keith Scott, but these two knuckleheads, red shirt here and black guy in the white shirt, obviously have something going on in between them in this location. That is away from the body, but in this location.
You better live.
Now look, this is about a good, I don't know, 2.5, maybe 3 feet away from his body, so there's no way in hell a little light latex glove dropped out of his body and landed way over here. And this is what people are talking about. What did he just throw on the ground within that location? A lot of people are saying, well, all of a sudden, there's a gun that popped up near the officer's foot right here. Now, I can't confirm that that's a gun, and nobody else has been able to confirm that it's a gun either, but people are trying to say that. In this image here, you clearly see that there's no gun there. But we do clearly see that that officer just threw something on the ground. So that's what we're talking about, guys. And let's go back. Let's be clear one more time, because I don't want people to say, oh, you didn't know what you were talking about. Alright, so we're gonna take a clear look here. Look, guys, nothing. The black guy would have been standing right about here. The white guy is standing right about here. There is nothing on this ground. When Keith Scott was falling backward, we didn't see a gun fall out of his hand, you know, slide to the side, any of that kind of drama. So if we follow this frame by frame, look, there's nothing on that ground except trash, you know, a few pieces of trash here and there, but there's no gun on the ground. He's running in the location where he was standing at earlier. Now he's running in at that spot. There's no gun there. Nothing. And like I said, if this here is the gun, if this is the gun in the holster, if it's the gun in the holster, then that constitutes as manslaughter. This man didn't even have, he wasn't even brandishing a weapon, as the police officers like to call it. And at no point in time did anybody say, get the gun, get the gun, get the gun. They immediately called for handcuffs, because I believe they already knew that there was no gun there, and the person that shot him didn't get the gun. He immediately got up after calling for handcuffs. Somebody else came in, took his arm from underneath his body, and they proceeded to try to handcuff him after they were trying to get his other arm out from underneath his body as well. So I wanted you guys to be very clear on that, and this is the clearest angle, you know, that we absolutely have. And here we see, you know, we see him getting out. And again, did he have a gun? He could have. He very well could have had a gun. We don't know whether he had an actual gun in there or whether it was a gun. It could have been his sweatpants rolled up. Like, it could have been anything. But at the end of the day, it posed no threat to police officers whatsoever. That does not pose a threat. Here he's seen moving kind of a little bit slow, appears to be, there's nothing lumpy coming from his hand. We already know there's nothing in his left hand. So we do get good, not really good views of Keith Scott, but we get some kind of view as far as what's going on when he got out of the truck. What was his state of mind? And he appears to be confused. He appears to be backing away, just as anybody that's confused would do. They just kind of start backing away a little bit, like, what the hell is going on? And again, let's not forget the damage that was done right here by this truck running into this other truck. Okay? So these are, in the hood, this is what they call the hop out boys. Okay? They roll up on you, they hop out, they jump out of generic looking automobiles like this, and they proceed to rough you up and arrest you. They do this whether you have a child support warrant, whether you have an FTA, a failure to appear. It doesn't matter. These guys will come in these unmarked vehicles, jump out on you, rough you up, and then try to place the charges on you, say you were resisting arrest or assault on an officer. Those are two they like to use a lot. But we see that Keith is backing up. And I'm just going over this to be extra clear with you guys. Look at this. This is a very clear angle. There's nothing here. There's nothing here, guys. Nothing. Okay? When he ran up on the scene, nothing. No guns around his body. Nothing of the sort. Nothing like that. So this isn't a hard thing to try to figure out. The first thing he does is reach for his arm. You see right there, he's reaching for his arm, and that's when you can hear him actually saying handcuffs. Okay. So you hear that? Everybody's yelling handcuffs.
Legacy car in his hand, gripping his hand. Back up. I got right gun. Back up.
You hear that? He's gripping his hands.
Gripping his hand.
He's not. He's dying, so he's clenching. He's tightening up, if you will. All right. So he was just he fell down in that way, tightened up. He grabbed onto his body because he got hit a few times in the body. All right, guys. So hopefully, this gives you a clear perspective. I know it was a little bit long-winded, but this gives you a clear perspective. I felt that this video deserved, to be broken, or all of these videos deserve to be broken down in a way that was responsible, in a way that was truthful, honest. But there's something obviously fishy going on here, especially being, there's no gun found anywhere around this man's body. At any point in time, no officer picked up a gun around his body. And if they did, and threw it over to the side near the curb, how responsible is that? How responsible is that? And we saw no one do that. I'm just saying, if that was the case, how responsible is that? Okay? You're not going to pick a gun up and go put it next to the curb just 3 feet away, or 4 feet away from his foot. So this supposed gun that was found at the scene, at the location, it never went off. It was never brandished. There was obviously no blood ever on it, and there would have been blood on it. But yet, the chief of police doesn't want to press any charges against his officers when we can clearly see a man with a brain injury was doing nothing more than backing up. He was not threatening officers. He didn't make a run at officers, so that the initial lies that came out that he made a run towards officers and he had possibly had his gun raised, those were lies. He was purely backing away. He looked confused. Again, it's a man with a traumatic brain injury. So, what do you expect? You run into the front of his car, you surround his car, you're pounding on the windows. He doesn't know what's going on. He couldn't hear his wife inside the car. She was trying to shout out and yell to him, but he was sitting inside of a car with the windows rolled up. So at the end of the day, he's getting out confused and backing up like, what's going on? And for them to shoot a man that was just simply backing up, just walking backwards. That's it. He wasn't running. He wasn't trying to make a run for it. He was backing up and assessing the situation. And they shot him. So that's my breakdown, guys. That's my analysis. I hope that you took something from everything that I just spoke about, and pass this video around to everybody you can. This is a detailed frame-by-frame analysis of the situation. I gave you the best information that I could. I showed you that there was nothing on that sidewalk anywhere around Keith's body. When they approached Keith, when they pulled his hands from under him, there was still no gun. If there was a gun, it would have been bloody because both of his hands were located under him. When he went to clench and reach for his body, it appeared that nothing was in his hands. And I've also told you, if that was an ankle holster with a gun in it, then that's still irrelevant at this point in time, because he wasn't brandishing it, and he didn't deserve to be shot for simply having a gun on his ankle, if that was a gun on his ankle. So we need to be clear about these things, and I want it to be as clear as possible, as direct as possible, in showing you that something's not quite right. Something's not right. This looks like planted evidence, and it's very clear. Keith Scott posed no danger, no threat to anybody, especially a man with a brain injury. So there's no justification for shooting him dead. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. This has been Sincere with whoissincere.com and the All Rights Matter show. Follow me on Twitter, Sincere Speaks. Just look it up, type it in, or if you want, take this video after you're done viewing it, go to the bottom of this video in the description section, and all of my social media links are there. Feel free to follow me. Feel free to start a conversation with me. Tag me in this on Twitter. If you share it out through Twitter, we'll start a conversation, because I know the trolls will start to bother you. But this is a frame-by-frame analysis that not even the trolls could look at and say, hey, we get what's going on. And he was obviously had a gun and he deserved to die. They can't say that with this video, because I've given you a frame-by-frame analysis showing you that, first of all, this man with a traumatic brain injury was simply backing up. He never lifted his arms. He never lifted a weapon at anybody. He never made a threat towards anybody. He was simply backing up, and he got shot multiple times and killed for that. After his car was rammed and they were banging all on his windows. So we need to take these, situations into consideration when we think about what our police are doing in America. Again, guys, this is Sincere with whoissincere.com, the All Rights Matter show. Follow me on Twitter, Sincere Speaks. Download the app in the description section if you want to get these when I do these videos, if you want to get an update immediately of when I do the video. If you download my app in the description section, you'll be able to have access to that. Always, guys, stay alert, stay alive.